Hello, my name is Tim Lahili, and in this video we're going to be talking about labels. We've done a number of videos on labels already, but this is the first one we're going to do it with it focused directly on Investigator. We'll review what labels are, we'll talk about creating them and the various places to use them. What they are is simple, they're just a tag. They're a critical tag because they're used all over the product, but at the end of the day they're just a tag. So let's go into the product and play around with them. I already have my Quincy open to the review interface. So to best understand labels, let's just find the label column. I'm going to do that by going to select. I'm going to remove all these columns I don't need, and I'm pretty sure the label column's already there. Yep, and let's just do that. So now you can see the labels are just a simple column, and you can see that these records have labels applied, these do not, and these do. And you can also denote that based on this little icon here. It will show you that a label has been applied to this record. So this is the first place labels show up. Let's talk about the second place and probably the most critical place they show up, and that is in the filters. In the filters, you come here to this icon, this tag icon, and you can see issues, columns, and in here, labels. And we click on that, and you can see there are various labels already in this case. There's a folder with sub-labels. There's a parent label. This one has 1,450 records assigned to it. If I want to see those, I can click on that. And that will filter this data set to documents that have that label. I'm just going to go ahead and clear that. So that's the first place that they show up, and this is primarily the vehicle through which you will use them. The second place is right here. If you open up this labels and bookmarks section, you will immediately be put into the label section, and it will show you the labels that are available in your case as well as the ones applied to the current record. You can see this label is highlighted. That's because it's applied to this current record. If we go on to this one, same. If we go on to this one, no labels are applied. If I want to apply a label to this, I could just go ahead and click on it. And now you can see I've both got this icon and this is highlighted, and you can see if I go back to this one, it changes the label applied, and back to this one, again changes the label again, and I can remove them just by clicking off them. So this is place number 2 that labels show up. It's also worth noting that you can create labels in this dialog box or in this panel. You can right click here, and if I'm right clicking at this sort of parent level, or excuse me, up here, I'm going to create labels in the root. So if I do new label, we'll call this, let's call it root level, and save it. It's going to pop up here at the root level. If I want to make one underneath a label, first of all, I have to have made a folder and not a label. Right click instead of make a new folder instead of new label. I've already done that here. I've got folder 1. And I'll just click on that one and create a new label, and we'll call it sub-level. And this should get created underneath the folder 1 if I've done everything correctly, and I did. Great. So there it is. So this is place number 2 they show up. Let's go ahead and close that. And let's talk about place number 3, which is in the grid itself. If I right click, you can see labeling options. If I want to label the selected documents, check documents, if I want to filter, or if I want to expose the label options. Let's just quickly do that so you can see. This is just whether you're going to keep families together. When you label, keep threads together, keep similar together. Keeping similar together, by the way, is profoundly confusing, and I would recommend not doing it. It has to do with whether you run various deduplication options. Depending if you process one case one way and another case another way, it behaves differently. Generally, I steer people clear of this because it just ends up causing more confusion than it's worth. But threads and families, I think, are a little bit more straightforward. Anyway, let's right click again and look at our labeling options, and there we go. Okay, now you can see these other ones are really about applying labels. They're asking you whether you want to apply to the selected record, meaning the one you just highlighted, anything checked, or any filtered. Filters be a little bit careful of, because it will apply to everything you have in the grid. In my case, since I don't have a filter applied, it applied to all 1,457 records, which I probably don't want. I recommend people use checked whenever they can. I honestly toyed with the idea of removing the other ones. Checked is just so clear and so straightforward. So let's go ahead and click checked, and let's do checked, and then let's say, okay, now first of all, you can see the dash. Dash means you don't want any change to it. The square means that you want to remove it, and if you go like this, it means you want to apply it. So if I were doing this, I'd be applying sub-label to these 3 records. So let's go ahead and do that. And you can see that's simple. Now let's right click one more time and again do checked. And let's remove them just to show you can, shoot, I'm just clicking crazy here. You can go ahead and remove them. Now, if you're going to remove, make that the only operation you're doing. Make sure everything else is checked to this neutral state, meaning you're not going to change the state of that filter or of that label. So let's go ahead and apply. And you see those disappeared. So those are the 3 main places you're going to run across labels, on the filter side, on that right panel, and here in the grid. But if you go to do an export, you're going to see you're going to be able to export by label. If you run a report, you're going to see you can run reports by labels. Everything else in the product generally runs through labels. So again, labels are probably the most important tag, something you should get familiar with. Anyway, hopefully that is helpful and it gets you started. If you have any questions, obviously always feel free to post, and thank you very much for your time.